We are 3 days away from the first game of the 2024 Eagles season. Zach Berman is preparing to get on a plane to São Paolo. Fran, Duffy, and I are preparing to give you some bold predictions. It's coming up next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Tuesday, 3 days away from the Eagles season opener in São Paolo. Wulf and Fran Duffy here in studio, joined momentarily by Zach Berman, our beloved world traveler who is preparing for his trip to São Paolo. Fran, how you doing?
Zach, I'm doing great. Bo, I'm doing great.
There he
I'm
is.
excited as we welcome in Zach. No, I'm so excited. We're 3 days away from a real game. I can't wait to really jump in and start breaking down this game. Obviously, it's been fun the last week and a half. But
this is for you, like the point of the draft season when you're like, oh, I'm done with this draft class. I need next year's draft.
Believe
class
it or not, that
before the
actually
draft
never
even
happens.
starts.
That never. I usually am like watching guys up until draft morning. So
Okay.
it is actually just the feeling of I'm done with the offseason. I'm ready to actually talk about games that matter.
Zach, how you doing? How you feeling?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. I'm sorry I'm not there in studio with you guys, and I'm going to miss being in studio with you this week. But no, I'm excited. And to the sentiment that Fran was just saying, right? I'm real excited for a football game, number one. But I'll say, and Bo knows this. We've been in the locker room this week, and all the conversation's been this flight's so long and the safety in Brazil and all that. And the perspective I have is how awesome is it that I get to be there for a historical moment in this franchise's history? All the football eyes are going to be on this game Friday night. I'm fascinated from a football perspective, but even just from chronicling this franchise, that's the perspective I have. So I'm real excited to go down there and see what this is like.
Well, Zach, let's talk about that. What are your plans for how to chronicle this trip for the Eagles? What are you going to be doing? And are you going to be tweeting?
Yeah, the tweeting thing, it's a good question. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I'm giving my wife a crash course on tweeting before I go, because there will be times when I text her some stuff I want to put up there. Like, for instance, we have...
Are you showing her drill? What are you doing? How are you teaching her Twitter?
Well, she doesn't know how to, or I shouldn't say she's a smart,
capable
person.
woman. Yeah,
she's very smart. She knows, but she does not tweet. So I will be texting her things to put up. For instance, I'm so excited, an awesome series of stories coming out tomorrow. There's a story I've been working hard on, spent some time, reporting it, writing it, and I want to put that out to the world. But typically, on allphly.com, a lot of our traffic comes via social media. So I need to put that out there. So there's the administrative stuff there. But then I'm on the scene. Thursday, I will be at practice. I will be there's press conferences. There's a walkthrough. You very rarely get to be around the team the day before a game. The NFL is making this exception because they're in Brazil. So because I'm there, I want to make sure that I chronicle it. I don't know what it's going to be like outside of the work hours. Really, tomorrow night and Thursday night are the only times that I am not working when I'm there. So I'll see if there's Eagles people out and about.
The people in the comments are already asking for vlogs. They want all kinds of video content from Zach Berman's trip abroad.
Yeah, so I'll do my best to vlog. Also on allphly.com, we will have an old school blog, right? Basically the pre-Twitter, how you'll put stuff up. Maybe there'll be timestamps throughout the day. But yeah, there will be a vlog. What I'm curious about is during the game. And I keep hearing I keep hearing people say, go with the VPN, go with the VPN. And for full disclosure, like, a VPN, that's that when I don't travel internationally that often, but if I do, I typically do that so I can watch American games abroad, right? But I don't know. I don't want to risk any type of punishment. So we'll see how this materializes over the next few days.
Everybody's excited also about this story that apparently is about a hard-on.
Excuse me? I mean, something.
You said you've been working on a story about a hard-on.
I said I've been working hard on a story. Okay.
Oh, okay. I must have misheard. I'm sorry. I look forward to that. That'll be on allphly.com tomorrow. Your
sophomore humor never fails. And I'm excited for you guys. I've seen the work from both of you guys. It's gonna be awesome. So make sure the audience checks that out tomorrow morning and throughout the next few days.
And what, Zach, all the questions of the players, as you talked about in the locker room this week, what are you going to be doing on the flight? What are your plans? How are you going to pass the time? What are you going to be doing on the flight? How are you going to pass the time? Will you allow yourself to sleep?
Also, I'm going to need to sleep because there's no time zone change, and I'm flying through the night. So the Eagles, they're flying during the day tomorrow. They're leaving at 10 a.m. And because they want to get to sleep in the hotel. So their flights during the day, and because they're charter, they go nonstop throughout the day. Mine's overnight, and because there's no time zone change, if I don't sleep, I won't sleep. So I need to sleep on the second leg of the plane. So I'm flying Philly to Miami this evening, and on that flight I will work. There's stuff for tomorrow's packages that I want to get out there, and then I have an hour and a half layover in Miami, and then there's 8.5 hour flight from Miami to Brazil. That flight, I'm hoping that I can sleep. That leaves at 11:45. I didn't sleep much last night. I'm hoping that I can get comfortable and close my eyes and doze off. I do have some stuff to watch. I have a Connor Stallions documentary. Looking forward to watching that. Recommended by Marissa. That's on Netflix. I scanned American Airlines' website to see what movies they're showing on the screen in front of you. Not really any movies that pump me up, but if you can get like a mindless, if they have a Curb Your Enthusiasm, boom, I'll be good, right? That'll put me out. But I'm hoping I can get 6-7 hours on that flight. Drops it down to an hour and a half flight. It makes it easy, but I need to fall asleep on that flight. That's imperative.
A lot of pressure.
Zach, was there any consideration whatsoever? I mean, rather than burdening Emily with all of your tweets and texting her nonstop throughout the course of the week, to just giving Bo and I the credentials to tweet on your behalf?
I should have considered you. Actually, someone said,
good question.
I said I would never give Bo my Twitter account. That would be my worst thing. I've spent 13 years building a professional reputation, and I could lose it in 13 seconds with Bo running that.
Zach, your instincts are correct.
Additionally, I don't want Bo to see my DMs either, right? I mean, that's a big part of this job.
What do you have to hide, Mistress Talk over here?
Not both. Some of us, it's about the reporting, the work. It's not mistress talk. When I say DMs,
what are you hiding from me? We're partners. We're supposed to share everything.
Well, I mean, there's conversations you have with different people via Twitter. That's only supposed to be for the eyes of.
It's probably because you're talking smack about me. That's why you don't want me to see it.
I promise you, with these people I'm DMing, we're not talking about you. We're talking about. Why so vain? Isn't that the song? No, we're talking about stuff with the Eagles, right?
Zach, for our
what are you hiding from me?
For our viewers that haven't been paying attention, coming off the holiday weekend, I saw you tweeted earlier today. Speaking of Twitter, the vibes around Nick Sirianni and just him being a little bit loose here as we go into game week. Can you just expand on that a little bit? Because I wanted to ask you about just what went into your thoughts there.
Yeah, good question there, because I thought last year he was pretty tight, and I remember remarking that to Bo. I thought going into the year there was a lot in terms of like the repeating. There was stuff that he was doing. It was almost, I don't want to say out of character, but he seemed a little tighter last year, like almost like he was trying to play. He was trying to play somebody. he seemed more like himself this week. Today he goes on these meandering stories, but like that's who he is. And just in having the chance to talk to him, it struck me that he seemed looser, given that there's a lot of pressure on him this year. He knows that there are a lot of questions swirling around the team. He knows that. But I think that he's confident going into this season. We can take that for what it is, but Bo and I talked during the Super Bowl week how there was a difference in Jalen that week compared to the other parts of the season. If I compare Nick going into last season compared to going into this season, I do think there is a difference that I see from him going into this season.
All right, let's talk about some of the actual news, because what you're talking about right now is vibes, and you may call it something different, but that's what you're talking about. Yeah. Give us the hard news, Zach. Give us a stone cold news, man. Injury-wise, are there things that Eagles fans need to be worried about this game, and what else have we missed over the long 3-day weekend since we last spoke?
Yeah, the first injury report comes out today, but we've been in practice the past 3 days, and everyone is practicing. That includes Isaiah Rodgers, who had like a mysterious illness last week, or I shouldn't say illness. I'm sorry, a mysterious ailment. We don't know what was holding him back. Okay, I take back illness. Rewind that. Delete that from the record. Then Dallas Goedert, he had that oblique injury. He's back. I spoke to Dallas about it, and he's like, he was fine. It was end of August. They were just being careful. There were no installation days on the days that he missed. So it was literally just like, take care of yourself here. They seem to have all 53 players on the active roster healthy going into this game. James Bradbury, of course, no longer on the active roster. He's on IR now. So they're healthy there. Now, as far as some of the lineup type stuff, Mekhi Becton's clearly the right guard. The Eagles aren't saying that. I asked Mekhi Becton this week, what he did this summer to like earn that role. And he said, I don't know who your sources are. I mean, I wanted to say, I'm not picking a fight with 6'8", 350-pound Mekhi Becton. I'm going to say my sources are my eyes. Like I was at practice, and you've been there. I was at practice this week. You're lining up next to Lane Johnson. If he's not the starter, it's the most ridiculous, form of deception that they've ever encountered. So you'll see that. I'm very curious cornerback. So as Bo predicted at the start of camp, this is coming to fruition. Vic Fangio said yesterday that Quinyon Mitchell is ready to play at the whole game, basically every snap. Whether that's on the outside all the time or on the outside and then moves inside in nickel, we'll see. Bo floated out the idea that he could stay on the outside and Avonte Maddox could play in the nickel. Vic Fangio did say Maddox is ready to play both safety and nickel, so he's not purely safety right now. So Bo has a good eye for that. So let's kind of pay attention to that. It doesn't sound as if Cooper DeJean is kind of ready for that role yet. Vic Fangio intimated as much. So it's either going to be Quinyon on the outside the whole game or Quinyon on the inside, and then Keeley or Isaiah Rodgers on the outside and base. But I'm expecting Quinyon to be the starter.
Zach, you also have a story up on allphly.com now about the trip to Brazil. Jon Ferrari, the assistant GM for the Eagles, talked yesterday to reporters. What were your main takeaways?
Yeah, so we're gonna have much more on allphly.com from our conversation with Jon Ferrari to kind of show people how the sausage is made. I didn't want to leave the website blank with Eagles news for 2 days before the stuff came out tomorrow. So I needed something that I can get up there kind of quick. So this is like a quick version of an extended conversation Bo, I, and others had with Jon Ferrari yesterday. But there's a lot that's been made throughout the summer and certainly last week about the Eagles jersey selection. Jon Ferrari said they're wearing the black and white as a nod to Corinthians, who's kind of the host team here. They're playing in that stadium. So that's why they chose it. They weren't told that they can't wear green, but it's kind of more in honor of the team that plays there. Of course, there is gamesmanship here by them choosing white instead of black to do so. It puts the Packers in green. But for Jon Ferrari said, like, there's no safety concerns for fans going to the game in green jerseys. Big picture here, kind of the logistics of it. It does seem that, they're obviously well prepared for this. I don't want to use the term guinea pig. Like there's a little bit of figuring it out as you go to, there's no precedent for it, But the good side there, and I asked Jon Ferrari about this, is that they can create their own precedent for it, right? So they're kind of instituting the best practices for them, and that's kind of being adopted. I thought Bo asked a really good question to him, which was like, does it help that this is week 1? And he said, yeah, because basically it's harder to do what they're doing if this was like a week 7 game and they had a road trip the week before. Like, they've been able to kind of prepare for the lead up to this, and that includes the schedule. Today is like an in-season Friday for them, and then tomorrow is a full travel day. The reason why I said earlier why they're flying out when they are, they chose that to kind of keep the guys on schedule. So they have a full day flying. They're told to stay awake, stay hydrated in the air. And then when they land, which will be around 10 o'clock local time, there's a 1 hour time difference. Then they'll get to their hotels and they'll go to sleep. That do's and don'ts meeting that we heard from AJ Brown, John said it wasn't necessarily like, do this, don't do this. It was kind of introducing them to the logistics of the trip. But my understanding is that these guys aren't really venturing out of the hotel. Like, they are part of the reason why they're going when they're going is to make this as comparable to an in-season trip as possible. There's a 1 day difference than that. Typically they do their walkthrough in Philly. Here they're doing their walkthrough in São Paolo. But this is not like a London thing where these guys are going to have a few days to see London.
All right, last thing for you, Zach. As somebody points out in the chat, it is a Tuesday in September. That means we are now 3 weeks away from the release of the franchise. Why don't you plug that bad boy?
I appreciate that. The franchise, A Curated History of the Birds, comes out September 24th. I am eager to talk about it. There's some events coming up, including the Friday before the book comes out. I'm at the Barnes & Noble in Philadelphia with Ray Didinger. Ray Didinger and I are going to have a conversation about the Eagles, about the book. So actually, if you want the book before it comes out, you can do that on September 20th at the Barnes & Noble in Center City. I will be there with Ray Didinger. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for that. And now the thing is this: I have, as was pointed out to me today, 2 road trips before then. I have Brazil before then. Obviously, the home game against the Falcons is a game week, but then the Saints game and the Bucks game. So September is a really busy month, right there. What's that song by Green Day? Is it Green Day?
Wake Me Up When September Ends. Yep.
Yeah, Wake Me Up When September Ends. It was an HBO promotion one time. That's why I know the song. Was it Green Day who said that? Is that a Green Day song?
Yeah.
Okay, look at that. That's the green part, right? We're going down to Brazil. September is going to be a busy month. September 24th is when the book comes out. But honestly, what's on my mind right now, I say like one day at a time. Obviously, this flight is a bear. I get that. But really, I'm excited for tomorrow morning when all our work from these past few weeks is going to come out on allphly.com. And then really, I want to flood the zone with coverage on our show. So we have Anthony's show, we have John Marks' show, we have the PHLY Eagles show. I hope our
you should just call into the other team shows too and just interrupt them mid-show.
I hope that the PHLY viewers are like sick of me by Friday, because that means that our company's getting our money's worth with me being down there. Like, I want to be on every show I can. I want to give you like up to the minute updates, what's going on. I'll try to paint the scene, although I probably won't be gallivanting around town. But if I can get a nice piece of steak or good pasta or good sushi, sign me up for that.
Well, I know that you're feeling good. Just to bring it down a peg, because that is part of our job here. I know the reporting FOMO in you. You have missed the scoop in the locker room today.
What?
That Jack Driscoll is back with the Eagles, presumably on the practice squad.
Yeah. Okay. Jack Driscoll's back.
Just ruined it.
It's going to be okay, Zach. I mean, I believe Jimmy Kemsky had it first.
My bad. I'm sorry to the audience. I came home to kind of get things together before the flight. Say goodbye to the kids.
Please. You are fine.
But, yeah. Also,
Zach, you have a long flight ahead of you. And boy, are your arms going to be tired. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We look forward to talking to you in São Paulo.
If I can add one quick thing here, because Vince just texted me, be on the lookout. We are going to have a PHLY diehard book signing in studio as well. So we'll have details for that once everything's finalized.
Nice.
Bo, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you guys on the screen from South America tomorrow. I land at 10 a.m. I land at 8 a.m. The PHLY Eagles show at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I plan to be on that show.
We look forward to it. Safe travels, my friend.
Safe travels, Zach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Good stuff from ZB. Let's talk now about our presenting sponsor. And that, of course, is our friends at Bet365, where it is never ordinary. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide and live streams of over 780,000 events each year. Early payout offers across the NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB because Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting. And today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 different sports. Been watching a little U.S. Open over the past couple weeks. My brother is trouncing me in our head-to-head picks, but that's okay. I'm still, big foe tonight. Hopefully he can pull off another upset. Right now, new Bet365 customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. And then, of course, what better betting weekend is there than opening weekend of the NFL? This is your chance to get a jump on the sports books before they know which teams are good. First, I believe this plays out like the first 2-3 weeks of the NFL season. Usually, that's when the casinos take their biggest losses.
I believe so.
We hope Bet365 does well. They'll make it up eventually. But just so you know, this is your chance to hop in. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Mr. Duffy, over to you.
Well, Bo, I left this morning to take my son to kindergarten, walking to school.
Baby.
52 degrees outside.
Yeah, what was up with that?
The season's changing, man. But you know what? A lot is changing. But one thing that has not changed over the years, that is the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that has not changed is that it is less filling. So what is the best thing about the original light beer? Miller Lite sparked this debate back in 1975, and we still have not settled it. Look, NFL kicks off this Thursday. The Eagles have their first game on Friday. We've got a full slate, once again, of college football on Saturday. What could possibly be better than sitting around with your friends and family, taking in all of the football on your screens, and slinging back a few Miller Lights? That just feels like fall, Bo. And look, people might be out there asking, Fran, what do you love most about Miller Lite? And the answer is twofold. It's the great taste, and it's less filling. Great taste, Bo. I don't love a heavy beer. I don't love a hoppy beer. I like a beer where I can drink one or two or a few and not just enjoy them, but then not feel terrible immediately afterwards. That's where Miller Lite delivers. It tastes better than any light beer, and because it doesn't fill me up, I can enjoy it with pizza or wings or cheesesteak or whatever I'm pulling off the grill that night. So many other beers, you have to make that choice. But with Miller Lite, you do not have to choose what is best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLYBirds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Lite Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium light or regular beer.
All right. Fran,
But
I want to ask you before we get to our big, bold predictions.
Okay.
We talked about this last week with Shield when you were not here. This, you are now outside of the Eagles umbrella as an official employee.
Yes.
Obviously, you grew up an Eagles fan.
Yep.
You worked for the team. Now you're away from the team. You may be curious yourself about the emotions you're going to feel week one. How are you feeling? Like, what is the fandom level here?
Well, I did hear you guys having that conversation. I listened to the podcast after. Most of the shows I haven't been on, I've been watching live, and so I've been able to interact with everybody on the chat. But this one I listened to afterwards. And
Just to thumb your nose at Shield,
yeah,
not give him
of
the
course.
live.
Yeah, I didn't want to get the live view. But no, to me, I think when I started working in football, period, at Temple, I feel like I was able to then separate like fandom versus I think I don't know if it was the just being kind of in the thick of it like every day every night but
You're in the process,
or where I was able to kind of like separate that. And honestly it was the feel, especially when I was at Temple and being with the coaches every single day, that was even a different feeling than being with the Eagles for 13 years, where you still felt it. I think for me it's going to be hard not to like root for individual people,
sure,
right? So you root for Brandon Graham's success, right? Guys that have been around for that long, and there are coaches and people in that building that you root for their success. But I do think I'll be able to kind of separate the fandom from me being able to follow and certainly break down and analyze, because I've had to do that over the last 10 plus years.
Trust your objectivity, no doubt about that.
Of course.
I'm curious about the emotions bubbling inside.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a little bit different, but no, not something I'm terribly worried about.
Nobody's worried about it.
Well,
we're just checking in.
Sure.
Okay. All right, let's get to it. This is an exercise we do every year.
Yes.
Sort of bold predictions of the Eagles. Now, this is a game that Daniz hates because part of the rules of this game are that he has to assign points based on how unlikely these predictions are to come true.
Yep.
And then whatever happens, you get those points if your predictions do come true. So you, me, and Zach are all going to come up with 5 predictions. Now, Daniz will be on the show on Thursday with you and Fran, so he can let us know before then how he has graded our predictions. But let's see how we go. You want to start us off?
I'll start
with the Zach one.
Yeah. You know what? Since we had to let Zach go on such a sour note, because you ruined his 9-hour flight with that.
He was going to find out anyway.
You were, but just the look on his face, you just see the color drop out.
It did. It was like the life had come out of him.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. That was tough to watch. So we'll start with the ZB one.
All right. Do you have one, Julia? DeVonta Smith, according to Zach, reaches 100 receptions. Now, last year, Fran, DeVonta Smith had 85 catches, but he had 95 the year before.
Yep.
In 2022, at a slightly lower yards per catch. What do you think about that?
So let me ask one quick question before I comment on this. As we go around the horn here, if I have things that are also topical to this, should we, or we're drafting them technically, right?
Yeah.
So if I don't feel, because I do have a DeVonta Smith one for a little bit later.
Okay.
100 catches.
100 catches is a lot.
It's a lot.
He was 5 away 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think it's completely out of the question, but that's the thing, is that he had that great year in 2022 and he was still shy of that. So he will need to surpass what he did 2 years ago in 2022. That was an Eagles team that was nursing leads mostly in the second half. They weren't throwing as much. They were running to win. Miles Sanders went for just shy of 1,300 yards that year on the ground. Is the formula going to be the same here for the Eagles? 100 catches is a lot. That's a good one.
Now, let me ask you this. This, I think, rolls in with the conversation we had with Daniz on Friday about using DeVonta in the slot.
Yep.
He has been so effective, one of the best wide receivers in the league on a per-snap basis in the slot, less so on the outside. He's still hovering around just under a quarter of his snaps inside. Do you think we will see that increased this year? Do you think we should see that increase this year?
My guess is that we will see that increase. My big thing, and not to give too much away for a piece that will be dropping tomorrow. I'll tease it a little bit. But I think that the bigger thing for me will not necessarily be DeVonta in motion or in the slot or A.J. Brown in the slot, but it would be DeVonta Smith in motion, A.J. Brown in motion, and getting the ball off that motion. To me, I think we'll see more of that, because for me, over the last couple of years, we've seen these guys, they have to work very, very hard for every single catch they make.
Yeah.
A lot of other players around the league, when you look at their peers, they didn't have to work nearly as hard for a lot of their production. And so when you look at Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson, you go down the list, CeeDee Lamb, all the other top target getters in their respective offenses, so many where it's, hey, either it's bubble screens, like easy completions, or they were in motion and they found space to work, and there was a nice, easy kind of pitch and catch. Whereas how often did we have to see A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith make these crazy contested grabs? I don't know that we'll have to see that as often here this fall.
And so why is that? Because obviously if the idea is like, well, we should get them easy targets. That's probably easier said than done. Why have they not been able to do that?
I think that part of it is just the way that they wanted to play offensively. So, when you look at all the numbers, and they were 32nd in motion, the width of the formations, a lot of stuff that was just kind of the identity of that offense and of that scheme, the way that they wanted to play structurally. And there are positives to that. There are good things to that.
Like what?
I think mainly it's especially if you have a quarterback that can be that guy to kind of run the show pre-snap and say, hey, you know what? Because it gives you more flexibility. If you are, you think of Peyton Manning, if you think of Phillip Rivers, and you think of the quarterbacks that just kind of have carte blanche before the snap to reset things. If you've got everybody kind of spread out across the formation with no movement and it's very static, you've got the same picture pre-snap all the way up until the ball is snapped for that 25 seconds or so. So that gives you a lot of flexibility, and then also it can lead to some predictability defensively, where if you are lining up and moving guys all around and you're changing things, well, now defenses, they kind of have to they have to get into specific coverage looks, specific front looks to try and counteract that. They can't disguise that stuff. And so, for me, I think that's the big thing. Why?
So at like a base level, if you think that you are more talented than the team on the other side of the ball, you think you are the team that's going to win the one-on-one matchups, staying static makes a little bit of sense.
Yes, but also I think the quarterback is part of that too.
Okay.
And that's one of the things about it is that when you look at where Nick Sirianni came from, and he cut his teeth mainly with the Chargers. That's where he came up as a quality control and as a position coach. Frank Reich was there for some of those formative years as he moved from QB to receiver. And Frank Reich came from Peyton Manning and the Colts, and that was the way that they operated. Was we're not going to use motion. We're going to spread everybody out. We're going to line up 2 receivers to the left, 2 receivers to the right, and we're just going to give the quarterback the keys to the offense. I feel like a lot of teams back then wanted to play that way. And not to go completely down a rabbit hole, but to me, that was why we had so many quarterbacks come in the league and bust in the NFL back in those days, was that everyone said, that's what we want. We want exactly what Peyton Manning is doing. That's obviously very, very difficult. And so, I think that you're putting a lot on your quarterback when you ask them to play that way. I think Jalen Hurts is certainly capable of doing that. We saw him do it in 2022. But in today's league, when you compare it to the way that all 30 other teams are playing, it's tough. It's tougher than your average quarterback.
And so now to circle back to Kellen Moore and Zach's DeVonta Smith prediction.
Yeah.
Do you think, to Eagles fans, DeVonta Smith is the player who they will notice most being used differently than he has been used in the past?
No, I think they'll do it with both he and AJ.
Okay.
I think that, and that's the thing, is that when you look, A.J. Brown gets paid, DeVonta Smith gets paid. Those guys both are going to produce at a high level. Yes, there will certainly be games where, like A.J. went 8 for 112 and 2 touchdowns, and DeVonta Smith went 3 for 34. But I think you can kind of count on a week later that things will go back the other way. And so I think both guys will benefit, and I think that'll be huge for the Eagles' offense.
All right, let's get to your first prediction. I'm going mine in ascending order of unlikelihood. So I'm gonna start with what I think is the most likely of my predictions.
You're gonna start with one that's most likely. Okay. For me, I'm gonna go with this one, and this is a related thing. I think that the Eagles finish in the top 15 in motion in the NFL this year.
Interesting. I thought about going the other way and saying they still finish in the bottom 10 in motion. So this is interesting.
Let's talk through this. So the Eagles, as we talked about, they were 32nd last year, 31.6%. The Chargers with Kellen Moore, they were 5th, 68.1%. Now, when you look at Kellen Moore's career in Dallas, he was 17th, 16th, 10th, and 6th. So he's actually progressively used less and less motion as time went on in Dallas, but spiked all the way back up when it was completely his show with the Chargers last year. Now, again, there are just using motion. That's not a magic bullet for automatically making your offense a better offense. But I do think that, look, watching them out there, and we weren't charting every single day in practice, but you could feel that this was a team that was using motion at a much higher rate than what we were accustomed to seeing. I do think that Kellen Moore has been given the keys more or less to this offense, and I think it'll take on more of his vision. And so for me, I think to expect that they're going to be 8th or 7th is probably a little bit lofty, but I do think they crack the top half. I'll say that they crack the top 15.
Okay. So yeah, that's a relatively, likely-ish
But here's the
prediction.
thing: is that I don't think that
They just said they were 5th in the league last year.
Well, the Eagles have been 32nd,
Yeah.
and here's the way, because I know who's grading this. I know Daniz is going to look at that and say, yeah, but Fran, Jeff Stoutland is still in the building, because I know Daniz has said on this show numerous times that he feels that might be more of a Jeff Stoutland thing. Well, how much is he going to impact what that looks like? Jason Kelsey no longer there. Do you want to mess things?
I mean,
mess
mathematically,
with
this is
your
a
first-year center?
50-50 proposition.
Well, everything is a 50-50 proposition. Does DeVonta Smith have 100 catches? Yes or no? Flip a coin.
I do think, though, that this is a good proxy for how much of the offense is actually Kellen Moore's versus Nick Sirianni.
I agree. Yep.
I think that this is a good way to measure whether that's true, to what degree it's true. If they're like 23rd, or if they start the first half of the season high in motion and they're not super effective, and you can sort of feel behind the scenes that Nick's like, let's get back to the basics. Let's do what we do. And it sort of creeps back. It sort of tells its own story.
Yes, I do think that is one of the things that you can look at and say, okay, how much of Kellen Moore, of his imprint is on this offense?
Okay. All right, I'll give you my first one.
Okay.
My first one is Bryce Huff leads the Eagles in sacks.
Okay.
Relatively basic. I think if you were putting odds on who's going to lead the Eagles in sacks, he would probably be the favorite.
Okay.
Right? He had 10 last year. He's playing a higher percentage of snaps. Josh Sweat could compete. Jalen Carter could really pop. Defensive tackles, it's tough. I just believe in the efficiency that Bryce Huff has had over the past 2 seasons. It's a much, the volume is less, but he has hit the quarterback, and you know that I care about actual tangible things like hits and sacks
versus
and not just pressures.
Yep.
He has hit the quarterback more often than almost anybody in the league. And I think if he's going to play more, I think that's, he's may not be quite up at that level because he did play a higher percentage of his snaps on third down than some of those other guys, like Myles Garrett and co. But I still think he's going to be pretty productive.
It's the classic, the baseball analogy of your 7-hole hitter that is signed with a new team to back cleanup. So I think the big thing will be if Bryce Huff is going to play a full allotment of snaps, he's going to be an every down player. Is he still able to maintain that level of efficiency? He had 10 sacks last year, but he never had more than 3.5 in the 3 years prior. So,
sure.
What does he look like here in Eagles Green? That will be one of the big storylines.
So here's what it is. Top 5 the last 3 years. I found my tab. Nick Bosa, Matt Judon, Bryce Huff, Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons. However, the snaps are like 1,000 for Bosa, 550 for Judon, also relatively low, 480 for Huff, and then 800 for Hendrickson, almost 1,000 for Parsons. So I'm just betting on the level.
I have a much like you had the idea of going against the motion one. I have one that goes against Bryce Huff in a little bit.
Okay, all right. Let's get to Zach's second one, Julia, and then we will continue rolling from there. What do we got, Zach? Wow, the Eagles don't have any player reach double-digit sacks, so he's betting against Huffy. He's betting against his boy in Josh Sweat, and he's betting against Jalen Carter. I think that's an interesting one, though.
Yeah, I will say I had one of them that Zach kind of jumped me on. So it's a little bit different, but I'll go with it. No outside linebacker gets more than 7 sacks.
Interesting.
Yeah. I had basically, Josh Sweat at 6.5 last year. We just hit on Bryce Huff. You have Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, Jalix Hunt, Patrick Johnson. I think Jalen Carter can get to double digit. So that's why I didn't go full bore as Zach did there. Now, double digits for a D tackle is very, very difficult. I think Fletcher Cox did that twice in 12 years, right. I believe. So that is a lofty goal. But I'm with Zach on that one. That was one that. Is there a path to Bryce Huff? Certainly, him going off, absolutely. But I felt better than not that he would go the other way.
Interesting. Why?
I think that again, Vic Fangio, until he proves to not be honest, I'm gonna take him for his word. And he did say this week that Bryce Huff has gotten better over the course of camp, but we don't
banging
know
on his run defense, not his pass rushing.
Yeah, but if he's not going to be out there, I don't know, man. And then
who's he going to put out there? Nolan Smith.
That is the one thing, is that who are you going to put out there to take some of those snaps? I don't think that BG, we talked about that earlier, that I feel like BG is probably more of an interior presence this year as opposed to off the edge. And there's just not, it depends on how much of a jump you expect from Jalix Hunt. But I just don't know if Bryce Huff is going to be able to get the double digit this year. So I would agree with Zach there. All
right, well, then I will go with mine, which is also related, and that is a Jalen Carter prediction. I'm expecting big things from Jalen Carter this year. A couple things. I have, one of the things we have posting tomorrow is my sort of roster capsules.
Okay.
Jalen Carter, the last decade, second-year defensive tackles.
Okay.
Only one of them has gotten to double-digit sacks. No
Yep.
surprise. That would be Aaron Donald.
Yep.
That was 11. Then you have Sheldon Richardson and Jonathan Allen and Greg Rousseau at 8. Chris Jones at 7.5. Quinnen Williams at 7. Jalen Carter had 6 last year. What I am using as the baseline here is the year that Christian Wilkins had last year.
Okay.
For Vic Fangio. He had 9 sacks and 25 quarterback hits. 25 quarterback hits was third in the NFL among defensive tackles. My prediction is that Jalen Carter tops at least one of those marks. So he will have either 9.5 sacks or better, or 25 quarterback hits.
I like that. I'm not going to use it now because I had some extras, so we're only doing our top 5. I had Jalen Carter as a first-team All-Pro.
Yeah,
only two defensive tackles make it every year.
It's a good one.
Obviously, no Aaron Donald, so I'm right there with you. I think that he is capable of being a true game wrecker on the inside. We saw the flashes certainly in the first half, but even the second half of the season, I do feel like him hitting the rookie wall was a little bit oversold. I do think that he played better than I think our memory kind of recollects. But
as everybody else around him was really falling off.
That was the problem. I think that the entire unit obviously fell off. So for me, Jalen Carter. Arrow way high going into year number 2.
All right, I'm going to tell you now about our friends at Rite Aid. And the nice thing about the Rite Aid is I get to choose which of the reads I'm going to do.
Yes.
I'm going to do the pharmacy services one today because I look like a Dr. Seuss character with this like bee sting thing I got going on here. So guess what? I got to go to the pharmacy. And with a My Pharmacy account at Rite Aid, you can refill your prescriptions, schedule a vaccine, get personalized care recommendations, sign up for prescription notifications, and all you need to get started is a prescription at Rite Aid. Just get started at riteaid.com/mypharmacy. Stop stressing about your prescriptions. Let Rite Aid refill them automatically. You can enroll in automated courtesy refills. It's free, easy, and most prescriptions qualify. Talk with your Rite Aid pharmacist or sign up through your My Pharmacy account at riteaid.com. Restrictions may apply. The other thing here, if this is a full household deal, you can make sure that if you've got multiple prescriptions to pick up for the family, you can get them all ready at the same time. You can set up medication reminders and enroll in prescription notifications. What's the bottom line? Transfer your prescriptions to Rite Aid today. Just go to riteaid.com/transfer. Rite Aid caring pharmacists are ready to answer your questions and help you stay healthy. Get your prescriptions along with anything at Rite Aid you may need, including over-the-counter medicines, household products, cosmetics, and more. Just ask your pharmacy team for details. Restrictions apply.
So, as we all know, we just got done with Labor Day weekend, and I had a very nice time with my wife. We had some friends. We went out on a boat. We had a few drinks, and as you all know, I'm new here to PHLY, to All City. I'm still playing catch-up, and for the first time, though, I brought with me a Z-Biotics pre-alcohol.
Really?
Yeah, this weekend. Brought it with me. And let me tell you something. Game changer.
Wow.
We all know the feeling. You've got the night where you have a few drinks. You don't bounce back the next day the way that you're used to. I know that I sure do not. I got to the point where I had to make a choice. Either I can go out and have a great night, or I have a great next day. That is until these guys, including Bo next to me, introduced me to Z-Biotics pre-alcohol. And let me tell you, if there is a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking, it is with Z-Biotics pre-alcohol. Now, here's what you have to know. Pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. And here is how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It is this byproduct, not dehydration, that is to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. And I told you at the beginning of this, we had that night out. We're out in the boat. You have a few drinks on the boat, you feel it even a little bit more extra. I don't know about you, Bo. That's usually how it hits me. I was the only one on the next morning that, hey, you know what? I had the Z-Biotics, the pre-alcohol the night before. I was the only one that felt ready to roll first thing in the morning the next day. That was me. My wife won't make the same mistake, make that same mistake again. It is safe to say that we are now a ZBiotics pre-alcohol household, and there are so many reasons to use it on a regular basis. Vacations, weddings, birthdays, and reunions. There's so much going on. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on pre-alcohol now. Go to zbiotics.com/PHLY Eagles to get 15% off your first order when you use PHLY Eagles at checkout. Pre-alcohol is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/PHLY Eagles and use the code PHLY Eagles at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and all of our good times.
Little boat hang, nice.
I love a boat hang. That's become the tradition at the end of every summer. We've done that the last 3 years. One of our good friends, it's her birthday's at the end of the summer. We go down, we do that.
Do you guys do like a Odell Beckham Giants wide receivers picture type deal?
No pictures.
Okay.
We do a little cruise down the Chesapeake Canal, up and back. It's always a good time.
All right.
A little seafood. It's always fun.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Zach's third prediction. You know what? I was going to say, I put Saquon Barkley in the thumbnail, and I don't have a Saquon Barkley prediction just because I knew for a fact that Zach was going to have some kind of Saquon prediction. Saquon Barkley has more rushing touchdowns than Jalen Hurts. Interesting.
It's a good one. Yeah, I think that, I don't know.
Betting against the tush push.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say, because everybody, when you go on any show, you talk with any writer, I feel like, especially in fantasy, that's the first thing everyone brings up is the tush push gone? Jason Kelce retired? Is the tush push? They're still going to do the brotherly shove. They're still going to do that. So now it's just a matter of, is the volume going to be there? How often last year did we see DeAndre Swift get tripped up inside the 3-yard line and then Jalen Hurts is able to punch it in the next play? I think the Eagles are banking on the fact that Saquon Barkley is taking more of those inside the 10-yard line runs into the end zone as opposed to getting tripped up.
And if I'm getting, my tinfoil hat on, they're calling on down from on high. We want to make this Saquon signing look good. Let's get him his rushing touchdown numbers.
You got that too.
You got a guy on the 1-yard line. Let's just give it to the guy we paid so much money to.
I mean, Hurts had 15 touchdowns on the ground last year, 13 the year before, 10 the year before that. I would think it'll be less than 15 this year. I don't think he'll have the same amount of numbers there.
Okay. What do you got?
I'll stay on the Saquon Barkley one.
Wow.
Career high in rushing yards this year for Saquon Barkley. So his career high was back in 2020. Yes, in rushing. Because he had 700 receiving yards as a rookie. It was 2,000 total yards. But he had 1,300 yards in 2022, 1,312. He hit 1,300 one other time, and that was his rookie year in 2018. I go back to 2022. Miles Sanders had just shy of 1,300 yards in this offense. Now, that was a perfect script for Miles Sanders to be able to hit that goal, right? I mean, the offense was outstanding. The team was excellent. So they were able to run in the second half all day long, and he was able to pile up yardage. I think the Eagles are hoping to have that same kind of formula. I know, Dainez, you were able to hit him up about the schedule when he was last week, and said, this schedule looks much more like the 2022 as opposed to that gauntlet from a year ago. I think Saquon Barkley has the ability to hit his career high in rushing yards.
So here's another thing from my capsules.
Okay.
That I was looking at. And you tell me if this matches what you've seen from Saquon on film. I think part of the reason the Eagles have invested in Saquon and some of their frustration with DeAndre Swift last year is that, this is one of the most running back friendly offenses in football, if not the most. Last year, DeAndre Swift led the NFL in yards before contact, right? Which I think is probably an offensive line stat.
Yes.
Miles Sanders was 5th the year before and 1st the year before that.
I was going to say, this is a universal
classic
thing, yes.
Eagles thing, right? Because of the offensive line, because of the attention that Jalen Hurts pulls away from the defenses. They are offering a better canvas to paint on for running backs than any other team. However, so DeAndre Swift was not very good in yards after contact.
Yes, terrible in yards after contact, actually.
But Saquon Barkley has not been super great at that either. Out of 44 running backs last year, he was 21st. In 2022, he was 28th of 41. And in 2021, he was 36th of 47 in yards after contact. I think they're betting on that being a reflection of just the offense that he was in. But if he doesn't have that tackle breaking ability that they expect, I don't know that they're going to get what they're hoping for.
Here is where I would say it's about which numbers to look at. Because for me, when I look at the Giants offense, the number where they've always been at or near the bottom, basically most of Saquon's tenure there was yards before contact. They were almost always at the bottom of yards before contact.
He was 32nd of 44 last year. It's actually 12th of 41 in 2022 before contact, and then 38th of 47 the year before that.
So typically very, very low. And so for me, when I think of Saquon Barkley as a runner, his best runs are when and this is the case for most guys, is when you're able to hit that linebacker level with a full head of steam. And that's where he because he's so big and he's so explosive, he's tough to get down when he does hit that. It's like Derrick Henry, that when he hits that full head of steam, he's tough to get to the ground. Because
it stands to reason that now it doesn't always bear out this way,
right?
But it does stand to reason that the earlier you're getting hit, those are the kinds of hits that would bring you down easier.
Those are the hardest ones to be able to make up, especially the fact that they got stopped so long before they even got off the ground. That allows other defenders to get in. Those the -3 to -2 to -1 yards are harder to come by than yards 5, 6, and 7 from the line of scrimmage, if that makes sense. So I think when you look at Saquon, look, I've never been pound the table, like he's one of the best running backs in football, like guaranteed. Like I didn't love him coming out. I really, really liked him, but he's always been a little bit indecisive. I thought he was a guy that you wanted to have in a situation like this one. You want things to be perfect for him, and so to me, he comes to a place where this is going to be be a really good situation for him in terms of the run lanes being defined. It's not going to be heavy loaded boxes. And if it is loaded boxes, that's going to benefit others. So I think when you look at Saquon, this is a perfect ecosystem for him to be able to capitalize on his ceiling.
Okay. I'm going to double down on a prediction I made on the Philly Special podcast with Shiel this weekend.
It's great discussion.
It was a wonderful time talking to Shiel, as I always do. The idea that at some point this season, Vic Fangio, during a press conference, is going to passive-aggressively throw the offense under the bus as a reason for something that happened on the defense.
Who decides this? Dana's, obviously.
I think this is up to my discretion, but Dana's can... Well, no, because then Dana's is going to give it low point value.
Right.
We'll give it up to Julia's discretion.
Okay.
Because she will be objective. That way, it can be worth more points.
Yeah, I think that's not.
I just want that. I want to get actual credit.
That's not a bad bet to make because he has been teetering on that line a couple times, even just in the last couple of weeks. So, I think that's a good one to make.
All right, let's get to Zach's number 4.
Are we at 4 already? Okay.
Cooper DeJean has the most interceptions among cornerbacks. Now, this is going to be tough for Zach if Cooper DeJean has to move to safety and gets a bunch of picks.
I was literally just going to say that, yeah. So that's the thing. I guess he was probably afraid of making it safeties or defensive backs because of C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Right.
I thought about doing Cooper DeJean.
They don't happen quite as often.
No, they don't. I thought about doing one with Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay. The thing is I do think that Darius Slay, he's a player, you've talked about this. I think you and Shield may have talked about this last week, was the, him being over 30. I think he's primed for maybe not a huge fall, but not the tier that we expected when he's locking down Justin Jefferson on Monday Night Football just 2 years ago. So I don't think that he's going to be quite to that tier. Rookie corner, that's tough sledding oftentimes. So that's tough. And so I thought, all right, well, could Quinyon Mitchell be the interception leader, or our team's going at Sled because he's a little bit older? I ended up just saying I'm not even going to touch this one. So
I think, but I do think, to Zach's point, I do think that Cooper DeJean has really good ball skills.
Yes,
right. That's part of the bet here, right?
Doubt.
That's whereas Quinyon is gets his hand on balls, but is not necessarily good at hauling them in. So if you envision that by week 4. Vic Fangio has a special role for Cooper DeJean, and that's soft inserting him into the defense. And then by the second half of the season, he's really playing almost every snap.
He's behind the 8 ball at that point, production-wise,
I totally
right?
agree. Yeah.
That's what makes that one a tough one to bet.
Okay. All right, what do you got?
All right, so I've got 4 left. One of them was Jalen Hurts only has single-digit rushing touchdowns. We just hit on that, so I'm not going to use that one. I like some of these other ones. All right, here's one I spent some time on, so I'm going to go with this one. The Eagles have...
I think that's a big part. If you spend time on it before the show, you got to use it. That can't be wasted time. Yeah.
All right. So the Eagles have 3 inside linebackers hit at least 2 sacks in the season.
Ooh, that's a good one.
For the first time in all the 2000s. Now there are a few times where they got close. TJ Edwards and Alex Singleton both hit 2 back in 2020. Jordan Hicks and Nigel Bradham got close. D'Amico Ryans and Michael Kendricks back in 2013. They each had 4. Najee Good had 1, so they were very close that time. There have been a couple times, but no matter what, I don't know how this linebacker combination is going to shake out.
I like this one for several reasons. Go ahead.
Okay, well, that's the thing. Is I don't know how they're going to shake out. It could be that 2 of these guys are full-time players and we don't see the third. It could be
unlikely.
I agree. It could be that there is a nice little rotation and maybe Nakobe Dean plays only in dime and you have Zach Bond and Devin White. Regardless, I think Devin White plays a lot. I think Devin White's going to get home for this. I think he gets at least 2 sacks.
Devin White over the past 2 seasons, Fran, among all pass rushers in the league with at least 200 pass rush snaps.
Okay.
Second best quarterback hit rate in the NFL behind Patrick Queen.
Okay.
Now, probably a reflection of Todd Bowles'
the usage,
calling good blitzes, right?
Yes.
But he is able to get home.
To me, one of my biggest takeaways from being on the field, watching the preseason over the course of the last few weeks was this team is going to blitz their linebackers a lot. And I thought about making this a blitz rate thing, but we know that when it comes to like the sim pressures and it's like, oh, well, they send a linebacker, but they drop a defensive end. Some services call that a blitz. Some others don't. It's like, I'm not gonna try and get into that. So for me, it looked at a production standpoint. I think when you look at Devin White, Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., whoever it is, one of their best things that all of them do is blitz. And I think that all of those guys are going to get used in that way. So whatever the combination is, I do feel like they all should be able to hit that mark. I think back to even to like Nicholas Morrow, he was bad.
3-sack game, right?
He had the 3-sack game against Washington early in the season.
Well, if you have a bad linebacker, the best thing to do is just send him forward, right?
Well, that was the thing. I remember you and I talking about this, back in like 2013 was about Michael Kendricks. And it's like, all right, well, Michael Kendricks is a really good blitzer. But if one of the best things you could say about a linebacker is that he's a good blitzer, that's usually not a great thing because that's like down on the totem pole of what you want that guy to do. Now, you'd love the guy to be able to be really, really good and also be a good blitzer. But with all these guys, I think you're saying, okay, this is best use of their skill set is get them going forward, get them going after the quarterback.
Yeah, I think at a fundamental level, this is a good prediction because they're going to rotate those guys and all of them are capable of moving forward and probably have to come forward at some point. And we saw it reflected over the summer that he was trying out all these guys coming forward. Quickly on the Fangio blitz thing, because you've hit a couple of my little things from this piece. So Vic's, and I agree with you, Vic's reputation, right, is he's not a big blitzer.
Right.
Miami was 27th last year in blitz rate, and of course there's some noise here depending on these sim pressures. It was just under 20%. And then if you go to his 3 years in charge of Denver, they never finished higher than 15th in blitz rate. However, when he did blitz, pretty successful. Last year, or I guess of those 4 seasons, never lower than 16th, but there were 2 top 10 seasons, including 2020 in Denver. They were the best team in the league, number 1
in terms of
in success rate when they did blitz.
Got it. Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So
I could see that. And to me, again, I think there's a lot of ways. What if Zach Bond, he becomes a situational pass rusher because they're not getting enough off the
you're
edge.
trying to cheat now.
That's what I mean. Like I think there's a lot of paths to success here for this to hit. And again, it hasn't happened in any of the 2000s, so it's not a complete slam dunk.
All right, here's one that'll get a lot of points if it happens. As my second longest prediction.
Okay.
This is not based on anything other than just seeing into the future. Tyler Steen will start either a playoff game for the Eagles, or if they don't make the playoffs, the final game for them that matters.
Okay.
I think the story has not yet been written on Tyler Steen. Mekhi Becton could be good, but I also think at some point, if Jeff Stoutland sees enough of what he wants to see from Tyler Steen, he should be the top backup at 4 positions. I like Fred Johnson too, but it should be Steen. And I think that Tyler Steen has looked fine when he's been on the field. And so I think there is a path where Tyler Steen enters into the lineup and holds a job.
Lane Johnson's getting up there.
Yeah.
Jordan Mailata has had injuries in the past. Mekhi Becton certainly has had injuries in the past. So a lot of paths to success here for this one to be able to hit.
Okay.
I like this one.
Before we get to our final predictions, remember to become a diehard on allphly.com. We got a big Eagles package dropping tomorrow. All kinds of written content to get you ready for Friday's season opener. We're excited about that, but you can only read it if you're a diehard. So make sure that you do that. And then, of course, we have the watch party coming up on Friday at the Tradesman.
Love the Tradesman.
Jamie will be doing the pregame show from there live. You can watch and hang with him. And why not watch with other sickos? What could be better than that?
You get to also enter a raffle to win a couple tickets to Eagles
exactly
Browns
right.
in a couple weeks. So that's big. I mean,
The Dun Bowl.
Yes. To me, I think that when you look at that, I look at that as almost a 2-for-1. You get to go and you watch with Jamie and friends at the sickos, but then also have the chance to win a pair of tickets.
Yeah, why not?
It's not going to be a huge party. So look, the chances are you winning tickets. Let's go. It'll be a lot of fun.
Okay.
Zach.
Our final predictions. Zach's number 5. The Eagles win at least 7 home games.
Oh,
now, is he counting
Friday?
Brazil?
I
don't think that should count, but I think he's going to count it, but that shouldn't count. I mean, 7-1 in the 8 games in Philadelphia is a bold-ish prediction. 7-2 is not. I feel like.
I'm looking at the schedule now just to see what we're looking at here. I know they start with the Falcons in week 2.
Loss.
All right, so we got Cleveland at home.
Loss.
We got Jacksonville at home.
Loss.
We got Washington at home.
Loss.
Carolina at home.
Win.
Pittsburgh at home.
Loss.
Dallas at home.
Loss.
Giants at home.
Loss.
I can see how he got there, though. I can see how he got there. It's just a matter.
It's a pretty easy schedule.
It's a pretty easy home schedule. That's a lot, though. That certainly puts them, I would think, in the driver's seat to win the division. You win 7 games at home, you should be in good shape.
I agree with that.
As long as you don't go completely inverse that on the road.
All right, what's yours?
All right, so my final one. I mentioned I had the DeVonta Smith one. I ended up not using it, but it was him leading the team in receiving yards over AJ. I thought there were a few paths there.
Boldish.
Yeah, but the one I'm going to go with here. Cam Jurgens named to the Pro Bowl, not as a injury replacement, but he is a Pro Bowl
one of the
top 2.
Okay.
The only elite center in the NFC is Frank Ragnow for Detroit, and he's had injury issues. As long as he's healthy, he should be named the starter. Would be my guess for the Pro Bowl. Outside of that, I mean, obviously Jason Kelce retires. Ryan Jensen with the Bucs retires. They were the 2 of the elder statesmen guys that you could guarantee would get those Pro Bowl nods. But after that, when you look at who the highest paid centers are and the guys with the most pedigree, it's Austin Corbett in Carolina, who I don't even know if he's going to be a starter. Tyler Biadasz, Washington, Eric McCoy in New Orleans. They're all on bad teams. And so to me, I think that Cam Jurgens, first, he's going to get the Kelce spotlight. Oh, he's stepping in for Jason Kelce. Best part of this
bet is that Jason Kelce is going to do everything he can to push this case.
The only guy I'm worried about and challenging him for it would be Graham Barton, the rookie center for the Bucs. And also the way I'm looking at this as well is that I know that Dane is a little worried about Cam Jurgens. He didn't love the way he played in the second half of the year after the injury when he came back. I do think that that's tough for Cam, playing a guard.
Give me your Cam Jurgens expectations.
My expectations are he's going to come in and he's going to play well. I think it's year 3. Year 1, he got the red shirt, just sit behind Kelce and kind of learn. Year 2, first playing action, albeit at a new position. I do think that when you look at having 2 very undersized players next to each other, that's not an ideal scenario. And we know that Jeff Salem wants those big guys at guard. And he got the opposite of that last year with Cam. So he was asked to play something that was a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit foreign to him. He had to deal with the injury midseason. So my expectations are that he's going to come in. I don't think anything changes schematically in the run game with the Eagles. I think they're able to do all the same things with him that they were able to do with Jason Kelce. And so for me, I expect him to come in and have a Pro Bowl quality season. I think that he will be in the running for that.
I think he's one of the most fascinating players on the team this year. And the sense that this is a season when we're going to learn a lot about the Eagles. We're certainly going to learn about this plan because this is the manifestation of a plan that they put in place 3 years ago, right? And they drafted potential successors for Jason Kelce before that. But this guy was, this was the center. This was the guy. Jason Kelce approved, right? Said that this is the guy who reminded him the most of himself. He got to spend 1 year just sort of watching and learning what Kelce does, how he and Stout interact, how they analyze defenses. And then last year, obviously, he by necessity has to play right guard.
Yep.
But now this is the year. It's fresh eyes, and talking with some of the defensive linemen in the locker room over the past week or so. they've talked about how there have been times this summer where, they got a stunt called and Jurgens calls it out ahead of time. He's just notices a little bit of a difference in the way that they're aligned or something like that. I'm like, God damn it. So, he's got the perceptiveness that you're hoping for there. Who's to say how it's going to work with Jalen? There's also the thing that's, I think, sort of whispered about, that maybe Jalen Hurts and Jason Kelce were not the best marriage, and maybe this will be a better one because it's a little bit more weighted in Jalen Hurts' favor. The offensive line has been sort of protective of Cam Jurgens this summer. You guys are going to put the Kelce comparisons on him, but we know who Cam is Cam, and Cam is a very good player. But also, he has to be the leader of that group.
Yep.
Even though he's the youngest of the group. If Mekhi Becton is starting, he's the lowest paid of the group. 2 of those guys are already captains, right? But they still have to follow him. But he certainly has everything that the Eagles hope. This was the plan, and he has, on paper, everything to succeed.
Saturday morning, I'm going to be going through the Eagles film, and I'll be posting clips, and we'll be putting breakdowns together, all that. I'm expecting to have a package where I'm looking at Cam Jurgens blocks in space. Wow, look at this. This is exactly what we've come to expect from the Eagles center in the last decade plus. I think that he's going to be able to operate at a really high level.
Nice. Okay, well, that was a nice discussion. I'm going to give you a prediction that will not lead to that much of a nice discussion.
Okay.
I was thinking about, how right Zach is all the time. In the year of Zach. Zach. He's been on such a heater. This is our Eagles insider. He knows what's going on. And so I was trying to think of what could reflect the level of Zach knowing exactly what's coming. My prediction is that Will Shipley finishes the season with exactly 19 catches.
Okay.
Because Zach said he's not going to have 20 catches. So he can be as impressive as possible without getting to 20 catches. So I'm saying Will Shipley finishes the season with 19 catches.
19 catches, 187 yards and a touchdown?
Yeah, 20 yards.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a good one. That's a good one to go out.
That's a prediction that if it hits, warps everybody else. I win the game if that one hits, I think.
We'll see what Dana says. Find out Thursday.
Do what's right. Okay. All right. Good stuff. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Boy, do we still have a lot coming your way the rest of the week.
Yes.
Tomorrow, check out allphly.com. Big Eagles package, written content. We're very excited about that. Zach will be on the scene in São Paolo. We got the Anthony Gargano show in the morning. We got the John Marks show in the morning. All kinds of other stuff. We're going to hear from Zach on tomorrow's PHLY Eagles podcast. Me, Jamie Lynch, Handsome Rich, chopping it up. And then on Thursday, Fran and Deniz are with me. And then on Friday, we got a game to cover, people. There's going to be a 2:00 show, a regular show before we even get to the kickoff show, the halftime show, and the postgame show. So all good stuff. We thank you to everybody for watching and listening. Stay tuned to allphly.com. And that's all we got. Thank you, Julia. Thank you to all of you. Like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Become a diehard. And tune in tomorrow. We'll see you then. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.